Till now, I have been too angry and too hurt to put word into cohesive thought, and I didn't want my video on this to be me like screaming and crying at the camera. I wanted it to be serious, a sit-down talk video where I discuss my experiences and you can ask questions. Hey y'all, it's Brody, and today I'm here with a video that I am really excited about and a little bit anxious about because we're going to be getting into some real topics today. This is like half discussion video, half Q&A. If you're not aware, I am Native American. I'm specifically Cherokee descent, and I want to share with you how being Native American affects me on the day-to-day basis, both on and off of Booktube. It's something that I've tweeted about a lot, and I feel like, you know, some people have listened, and I am thankful to those who have listened. But I just figured, you know, since I talk about it on Twitter all the time, and I wanted to do a video like this, I would just do it. So I'm so anxious right now. You know, I went on a really long Twitter thread about how hard it is. It was the night of the MAGA kids and the Native American March that happened in DC a while back. You probably remember it. If not, I'll like post a news article or something in the description. There's a lot that's going into it. I got some questions through Twitter, and that's what we're going to do today. I'm sorry if I feel low energy. I'm just like very scared about this for some reason. Alright, so if you see me looking off screen, it's because I have the questions like on my laptop, because I film on my phone. Okay, question number 1. Question 1, Kathy asks, how do your identity intersections inform your reading choices? It really applied to the books that I do read, but the books I choose not to read. If something features a native character and the author isn't native, then I'm probably not going to read it. Just from personal experience, it's usually like a super cliche, super stereotyped representation, or like the native character is like over-sexualized, or it's just harmful. The author doesn't care enough to do research and include the research about the culture in the story, and I just usually kind of like put those off of my radar because I would rather be supporting authors who do get it. Yeah. And then as far as like intersectional identities go, it's already hard enough to find native stories, and it's even harder to find like queer native stories or fat native stories, so it's difficult. But yeah, as far as being Indigenous goes, I just tend to just try and support own voices authors because usually they're not gonna be filling it with like harmful stereotypes. Okay, Jay asks, have you ever read a book with a native character that was written well, or with a native character at all? Yes, I have read several books with native characters. Not as many as I would like to, but I have read like a handful. I have a stack here that I'll show you in a minute. But yeah, I mean, it's not really hard to find characters who are native. Like, look at like The Lost Hero by like Rick Riordan. Rick Riordan is one of the most popular authors on Booktube, and Piper McLean is Cherokee. Other books that I have read that I have really liked are, let's see. Okay. Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. This takes place like after the Navajo apocalypse. It's really fun. I don't know for sure if it's own voices. I've seen some conflicting things on the internet. But yeah, the main character is Navajo, super badass. There's like clan powers. It's fun. And then the next one I want to mention was my first read of this year, and that's the New Mutants Demon Bear saga. It follows a mutant named Danny Moonstar. I just like that name. It follows a mutant named Danny Moonstar who is being stalked by this demon bear that she thinks she pulled out of her dream. It's fun. But yeah, there are well-written Native books out there, and it's just you have to find them and, you know, actually read them. Courtney, the light of my life, asks, if you have read any books with Indigenous representation, how accurate to your own story is it? I would say the most accurate to me personally would be... I would say the most accurate to me personally is They're There by Tommy Orange. There are a lot of characters in here. It follows like 12 different perspectives about all these characters going to the Big Oakland powwow. But the character I related to the most in here is a teenage boy who he has to learn a lot about his heritage through research on the internet. He wants to become a dancer. And he has to like learn the dances through YouTube and, you know, scrap up regalia. And that was very true in my experience, not because we didn't talk about being Native a lot growing up, like we still went to the powwows and stuff, but the culture wasn't really done a lot in my house, and I had to learn a lot about, you know, the different tribes and the different clans and stuff through the internet. And there are also essays in here on what it's like to be a Native person in today's society that I feel are really educational. They made me cry more than the narrative did. It especially talks about how it kind of feels sometimes like you're stuck in a magnifying glass where you're between white people and people of color, and you can't really feel like you belong to one side or the other, because like if you take me, I am white passing, but I am not white. So this book just really hit hard for me. It deserves all the praise that it's gotten, and I think that this is one that everyone should read. Next question. China Dreams Piscean Sorrows asks, there are a few sub-communities on Booktube, Black Booktubers, Asian, LGBTQIA+, etc. What are your thoughts on those pertaining to your identities? Like, do you wish there was a greater sub-community of Native Indigenous Booktubers? Okay, yes. I do wish that we had more Indigenous Booktubers. Besides myself, I know of like 4 other Indigenous like internet book people, and I will link them below. But only one of them is a fellow booktuber, and that makes me sad. We're often viewed as like not POC enough to discuss racism, but I think if we had more voices, we would be able to be heard, and people would call out racism against us the same way they call out racism against other minorities, because there's a lot of, you know, anti-Native narrative on BookTube and Book Twitter that I've noticed. Just like small microaggressions ranging to like the big things. And here's the thing though, no one ever brings up Natives at all in discussion about POC inclusion or racism. That's a problem. Because like I said, we're 2 POC for the whites, 2 whites for POC. This is generally speaking, okay? Not everyone subscribes to this, but this is a regular thing that I have noticed and Michelle has noticed as well on BookTube. Okay. Rachel had a couple of questions. The first one is this: how do you feel about people using the term spirit animal, and what would you like them to know? Okay, one of the most ignorant, racist things that has ever been said to me, this white girl came up and she was like, so, since you're like an Indian, can you like summon the ancestors and get them to like assign me a spirit animal? Because I really want one, but I don't want to culturally appropriate. Her spirit animal is a dumb bitch. Okay, so I'm Cherokee, and generally I don't believe we have spirit animals. None of the people in my tribe or at the powwows that I've talked to have talked about having a spirit animal. That's not a thing that we do. I've never met a Native person in person who talked about having a spirit animal, but if they did, that's something you want to keep private. There are a lot of practices that we like to keep private to ourselves. But you generally don't want to throw around that term because it's a spiritual thing. And, you know, like I said, lots of people like to keep their specific practices private. I I do hate it though. I get very pissed off whenever I see a non-native person using the term, because it is cultural appropriation. It's the same way that, like, I don't have to be, you know, like you don't have to be a marginalized group to know when things are offensive to a marginalized group. And it's like, it just rubs me the wrong way, and I get that it's like internet slang, but it just pisses me off. And anytime I see someone using that term, I'm just like, okay, we're just gonna back out. Do your education, you know, educate yourself, do your research. Google's there for a reason. And don't talk about how things shouldn't be problematic if you're being problematic. Okay, Rachel also asks, can you share some of your native customs that you practice for people, especially in Europe, who have never met an Indigenous person? Like I said, a lot of that stuff is private, it's personal to me, but there are a few things I'm comfortable sharing. I'm really big on, like, smudging with sage. I always offer up, or back when I, you know, had it on me all the time, I would offer up tobacco whenever I would, like, see a hawk. That's traditional. Powwows. Powwows are one of my favorite things about being native. I would always do the intertribal dances as a kid. It's great to, like, see people that you haven't seen since previous years. You all dance and eat food, and there are vendors, and you just talk and you have a good time, and it's amazing. So yeah, everything else is something I would like to keep private, and I thank you for respecting that. POC Bookish Content asks, when's the first time you felt represented in a book from an Indigenous perspective? And that is going to be The Lost Hero by Piper McLean. This was the first time I've ever read a Cherokee main character specifically, because there are different kinds of Indigenous people. I'm a Cherokee, so I can't speak for Navajo or Cheyenne or any other kind of rep except for mine. Sure, I may be able to relate to those experiences, but I can't speak specifically on the rep. And I felt like the rep in The Lost Hero was really well done. It meant so much to me to have a Cherokee character who was spunky and, like, kind of, you know, a ditz sometimes. I don't know, like, all of Rick Riordan's characters are kind of ditzy at times. It was just great to have one that was not a stereotyped portrayal. And, you know, having her be Indigenous and badass, and then also a child of Aphrodite. Whenever I, as a, you know, late teen, young adult, like, work with Aphrodite in my own spiritual practice, that made me connect with Piper even more. And they also ask, any book recommendations for better representation of Indigenous people? I'm going to talk about one that I haven't talked about yet. Once again, I am not Navajo, so I cannot speak on the rep. But one that I feel like is really good for historical fiction is Code Talker by Joseph Bruchac. If you're looking for historical fiction, I would recommend this. It was a good time. I also read this earlier this year. And, yeah, just highly recommend it. It is very heavy, especially in the beginning before war, where they're talking about how they were rounded up and sent to these schools where they were essentially taught to be white. If you spoke your language, you would have it beaten out of you. They forced you, like, they held you down and shaved your head. They did all of these terrible things to you to force you to be white, and I feel like that's something that not a lot of people know about, that a lot of more people should. Okay. Tate asks, what's a book / TV show / movie, etc. that has good Indigenous representation that I love? And, like I said, all of these, but They're There by Tommy Orange is gonna top everything every time. Can't scream this book's praises enough. Yeah, this one, I feel like, is the best Indigenous representation I've ever read, just because it comes from so many different perspectives, and you also get, like, the nonfiction essay style things in here, where he talks about what it was like whenever the colonizers first came over, and all of the horrible things they did, and how, you know, like, what you learn in elementary school isn't what really happened. So I feel like this is one that everyone can get a lot out of. Tate also asks, are there parts of your heritage you wish you were more connected to? Honestly, one of my biggest regrets in life is not being a grass dancer. I would go to the powwows and just watch and be mesmerized by them, and the grass dancers were the only ones I could really ever sit still the whole time for. Like, yes, there were others, obviously, out of respect and custom, that you don't talk for, you don't move for, but the grass dancers were the only ones that I would just, like, be completely engrossed by. And, I was supposed to learn it, and it just never happened. And then as a teenager, I started to kind of reject my heritage because I was coming to terms with my sexuality, so I was just rejecting everything about myself, and I hated myself, and I was like, oh, well, if I hate everything about me, then, you know, that will make me numb inside, and I won't feel things. And I know it's never too late to learn, but, like, not being one of the dancers is still one of my biggest, like, what ifs. Tate also asks, how has your experience been finding a community of Indigenous people within the bookish community, and has that differed between platforms? The only active native booktubers I can find are me and For Once Another Letter, that's Michelle Huber. I've looked so hard, and I can't find anyone else, so if you're an Indigenous person watching this video and you do Booktube, please comment, let me know, we'll talk, we'll be friends, please, just let me know, because this is something that Michelle and I have talked a lot about. We're just, we can't find anyone. It just feels like I see more native stuff on Twitter because Twitter is not specifically book related. But my friend Wheezy has a blog that I will link below. We met through Twitter by a complete fluke, and she's become one of my favorite people on the planet. So yeah, I've definitely met more Indigenous book people on Twitter, but not a lot. Okay, Isa, I believe that's how you pronounce your name, I'm so sorry, asks, who is your favorite Indigenous author? Currently, it's Tommy Orange. What's your favorite book with good Indigenous representation? Currently, it's There by Tommy Orange. Isa also asks, sorry if this is a bad question, but do you feel like there's pressure on you as an Indigenous reader to prioritize and boost Indigenous literature or be an authority on Indigenous culture/literature? If so, how can non-Indigenous people take that pressure off you? Okay. It's not a bad question. Thank you for asking. But I definitely do feel like people look to me for Indigenous stuff. But I think the same can be said for any, like, marginalized reviewer. You know, most queer reviewers read and review queer books. People who are plus size or fat look for plus size and fat reps. So there are entire readathons who are dedicated to only reading books by authors of a certain heritage, like the Blackathon or the Asian Readathon. And if we want these diverse stories to get traction, we have to show publishers that these books have support. That's why we hype them up. That's why we do most anticipated releases. That's why we're on street teams. And to get more stories, we have to put in that work to boost them as much as we can, or else we just get the straight, skinny, white stories. So I definitely feel like anytime you're a marginalized reviewer in any capacity, you are kind of looked to as an authority on that thing, and I don't think that's really cool, but that's a discussion for another day. As far as what you can do to take the pressure off of us, I would say just do it yourself. You know, obviously you can't call the review own voices, but I can't call any of the 4 of the 5 books I've shown you today, I can't call those reviews own voices. I'm just boosting native voices, except for Rick Riordan. That's the only one I can call own voices for the character. So yeah, it's like the same way that, you know, like, allo cis het white people, you know, have been boosting stories that are diverse. Just boost them and support them. And if it becomes something that's more ingrained in the community, then I think I won't feel as pressured. Alright, next question. What is one or a few things that you'd like people to know about your culture? We don't all get free college. We don't have to, you know, we don't automatically get free college. We do have to pay taxes. We don't get government money or casino money. We don't all live on reservations or in teepees. Asking what percent are you is a racist thing because blood quantum was created by a white government to, cause a separation. What else? We don't all follow the native stereotypes of being stoic and fuck-offy and angry. And for some reason, that's something that the media likes to portray, is that we're all, like, heartless and cold and angry. If you've ever been to a powwow, you'll know that Native people are full of light and laughter and joy, and we just happen to carry around a lot of trauma as well. My favorite thing about my heritage, I would say probably that. It always goes back to the powwows. The powwows have always been my favorite thing about my heritage. I'm gonna get a little emotional talking about this, but just going there and hearing the drums and being able to feel the drums and see everyone for the first time in a year, all of these people who have traveled to attend and dance and celebrate our heritage, and oh boy, I'm gonna cry. And just like going into the circle and getting smudged, and you just have the music and you can just lose yourself in it. Yeah, that's always been my favorite thing. Okay, do you feel like your heritage is being lost at all, or your culture? The question, it says, do you feel like it's being lost at all? Maybe it's just because I'm like heavily invested in native Twitter, but I feel like it's the opposite to some degree. Sure, like society as a whole may be kind of ignoring us and losing the culture and pushing us in the background, because historically that's what we do to Indigenous folk. But I've seen so many proud Native people wearing their regalia and, protesting the pipelines and just being so unapologetically Native that it hurts. Like, even with like memes and, the threads and, I don't know, everything about Native Twitter, or most things about Native Twitter, warm my heart. I do think it comes from the fact that we are tired and exhausted, and it's not exactly the same as the Black Lives Matter movement, but I think it can be compared to some degree. So I'm not saying it's on the same terms, but it's, a comparison I think the scenario warrants. We're tired of being quiet, and we're tired of being ignored, and we're tired of being stereotyped into the ground, and we're tired of being asked, what's your spirit animal, and like, what percent are you, and how much money do you get from the casinos, and we're tired of Halloween costumes sexualizing women who are literally being kidnapped, murdered, sex trafficked. We're done with all of this, and through all of this, the culture among our people, regardless of what nation we're from, is in a huge, beautiful upswing, and there's a huge resurgence of Native pride, because we're tired, and we don't want to have to keep dealing with the bullshit anymore. We don't want to have to keep living... Oh shit, am I gonna say this? We're tired of feeling, I think, this is me personally and how I kind of view the whole thing, we're tired of being in the background, especially on our own land that, Christopher Columbus discovered. We're tired of being treated like second-rate citizens. We're tired of acting like being Native is something that needs to be pushed back in the closet. We're fucking tired, and we're not gonna do it anymore. And I think that's something special. You have the kids who want to wear feathers on their graduation cap at, their senior graduation, and they're told no because it's decor, when it's a spiritual thing. You have people who are wearing their regalia to prom. It's so beautiful, and I think maybe society in general is pushing it away and trying to lose it, but we're not, and I think that's the important thing, because it's our culture. A couple of people asked a similar question, but I'm just going to go with Rachel's because that's the one that's like right on the screen right now. It says, what can people in the bookish community do to support you and make sure that you are seen? 3 things you can do to support us. You can boost us. You can boost our videos and our blog posts and our Twitters and our, channels and what have you. Just share us around. And traditionally, I know it's not the same because there are so many people, but traditionally, white people have a bigger following than people of color on this platform. So, use your privilege and boost us, if you really care. And this isn't to Rachel specifically, this is to anyone who's watching. If you really care about supporting people of Indigenous descent, then you will support people of Indigenous descent. You will boost us. You will share us. The second thing is including us. Include us in your discussions and have us as co-hosts. Treat us the way you treat other people. And I'm not saying that I deserve to be included any more than anyone else, but I am overlooked a lot, and I have never seen a Native American person be included as a readathon co-host or on a live show or anything. I was asked once, but I couldn't do it because of scheduling conflicts. But yeah, I've never seen that. And you know what? That's not cool. Saying that we don't have, the numbers or whatever, because Michelle and I don't have very big followings, but using that as, that's an excuse. You don't have to have big numbers to share people and include people and boost people. And that's just real talk. The third thing is listening. I feel like this is the biggest thing. Listen to us when we talk. Hear what we're saying. Don't just, hear it. Listen to it. Take it into consideration. You're more than welcome to make your own opinion about things, but if you're asking for me to tell you, then listen. Apply it. Indigenous people have a history of being forced into the background and being stamped out, and I think it would help a lot if we all have the same opportunities and the same visibility as people of other ethnicities, especially white people. I want to acknowledge wholeheartedly that on some degree I am white passing, so I do benefit from white privilege. And yeah, I'm not invalidating other POC, I'm just saying that traditionally we don't have the same privilege as white people as well. I think it would help a lot if we got the same opportunities and the same visibility, both from white people and people of color. Because, as I said, I've never seen a Native American person included as a readathon co-host or hosting Twitter sprints or anything like that. Both from the white booktubers and from the POC booktubers. I understand that as minorities we have to carve out our own spaces, but I also believe that we should uplift each other. I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just telling you my personal thoughts on the matter. And like I said, saying that we don't have the numbers or we don't have the clout is an excuse, because you don't have to have numbers to be included. And finally, just remember that we have voices and that we're valid. Alright, that is all of the questions that I have, at the very least, saved in my Gmail drafts. I hope I got to everything. I feel like there might be one or two that I'm missing that I forgot to copy in here. So if I did that, my apologies. I'll check back and then answer in the comments of this video. So yeah, if you stuck around until the end, thank you for watching. Comment question of the day is going to be, what is your favorite book by an Indigenous author? It doesn't have to be specifically, one of, the traditional tribes, you know what I mean? Whenever I talk about Indigenous people, I talk about all Indigenous people, Alaska, Pacific Islanders, Aboriginal, First Nation, everything. I include everything, when I say the word Indigenous. So let me know, because Like I said, the 5 books that I have here are the 5 books that I own where I think the representation is decent. So yeah, let me know. Thank you for watching, and, booktuber shoutouts, because I'm doing that. Today's booktuber shoutout is going to be Michelle from Thor Wants Another Letter. She is a sweet angel. She is a mother. She is my native sister, and I love her so much. I'm so thankful that, like, I have met Michelle through this community. And, yeah, I encourage you all to go and check out her channel. She has over 100 videos, so there's plenty of content for you to watch. And also, make sure you check the description for all of the other people that I'll be linking down below, their Twitters, all of the websites I've mentioned. So yeah, I have to do an outro now. I hope you have a wonderful whatever it is, wherever you are. I will see you next time for another video. Thanks for watching. That's a piece.